Here in Louisiana, fortunately or unfortunately, just very familiar with hurricanes. It's a common process. We know what to do when something comes into the Gulf. We're in the cone. We know what we got to do. What we got to do to the house. What supplies we got to get. What we got to stock up on. It's kind of like just in the culture. It's in the air. We know what's got to happen. I say that because it kind of sets the context for the gospel that we hear in Mass this Sunday of the calming of the storm at sea. To the Sea of Galilee, because of the geography around it, which is very prone to these very intense storms popping up rather unexpectedly. It would have been something that they were familiar with, they knew about. It was part of the job of being a fisherman on the Sea of Galilee. So the apostles, when they're going out fishing in the gospel today, and there's this storm that pops up, they probably wouldn't have been all that surprised or all that worried. They shouldn't have been, because this is probably a rather common encounter. But in the gospel today, you can tell that they are actually very much afraid. They're worried. And the words that are actually used in the Greek is actually the Greek word for hurricane. It is like a very massive windstorm that pops up. And so the apostles, who would have encountered this situation time and time and time again, are terrified. The boat is taking on water to the point of capsizing. They think that they're going to die. That's how fearful they were at this moment. And we look at Jesus in this gospel, and we can look at him on the cushion, sound asleep, and that can bring up a number of emotions, probably most predominantly for the apostles, like, what the heck? We're about to die, and this guy is just sleeping. How is he sleeping through this? Because if you're on a Category 5 hurricane at sea, it's probably not a smooth ride. They're trying to wake Jesus up to say, like, don't you know what's happening? They're probably not just like saying, hey, Jesus, look at this storm. They probably have to scream over the thunder, the wind, the rain. It's probably hard to hear. It's a very chaotic and terrifying situation. And the question that comes up in their hearts that they ask Jesus, don't you care that we're perishing? Like, Jesus, you're letting all this happen and you're not doing anything about it. Don't you care about us? How often, at least I'm struck by how often that question can come up in my own heart when I go through a particular trial, a struggle, a storm, that it was either expected or unexpected, that it can feel like Jesus is just off sleeping somewhere, worried about something else or somebody else. And that question can come up in my heart, like, Lord, don't you care about what I'm going through? Why are you letting me go through this? Don't you love me enough to take this pain away from me, to take this struggle away from me, to calm this storm? Why do you seem to be just off sleeping on the side of the boat and not worried about me? Don't you care about me? Jesus obviously wakes up and reminds the apostles, like, what do you have to worry about? And I was praying with that encounter of the apostles waking up Jesus. I think it's easy to think of it as a lack of faith on the apostles' part, right? It was something, a fault, a negative of theirs, right? They should have had more faith. Why did they need to wake him up? Why didn't they have faith that Jesus was there, he would take care of it? And to almost see it as a criticism, and to find in myself, like, okay, if I was in their situation, I shouldn't need to wake up Jesus. When I go through a struggle or a storm in life, I shouldn't need to wake up Jesus. I should just trust without knowing. The more I sit with that, the more I think that couldn't be further from the truth. The invitation, I think, is to see the apostles waking up Jesus, not so much as a fault, but rather as the place of a real and vulnerable encounter. Because the apostles woke up Jesus, he was able to speak some beautiful words to them. Why are you terrified? Aren't you in my hands? Don't you know that I see this situation, this struggle, this storm, this relationship, this marriage, this loss? Don't you know that that's in my hands? Don't you know that I'm here? That nothing else matters. I've got you. You have nothing to worry about. We're supposed to need that reminder. I'm not supposed to know on my own without Jesus reminding me that I'm okay. It's the tendency of human nature to forget. That's what we do. The Old Testament is about the people of God forgetting again and again and again and again and again that he's got them. And the most beautiful part, God reminding them again and again and again and again and again that he's got them. If you just trust me, if you just follow me, if you just listen to my voice, you have nothing to worry about because I've got you. Even in the midst of a life-threatening storm, you can hear my voice and know that you're gonna be okay. The storm will end. This will not last forever. This is all in my hands, and I will bring it to peace. I will bring it to fulfillment. We need to be reminded of that, and we're supposed to need to be reminded of that. If you find yourself in the place of a storm and almost like feeling ashamed that I need to wake up Jesus, that I don't have enough faith, doesn't mean you're not good enough. It just means you're a human being who needs to be reminded of their Savior and how much their Savior loves them and how much their Savior's got them. And our Savior loves nothing more than to remind us of that reality. Hey, I've got you. Nothing, I don't think anything brings a greater smile to Jesus' face than for him to tell us those words and to hear those words and to receive those words. And even if just for a brief moment, to have a moment of faith and a moment of confidence. He's got me. The storm's raging all around me, but I know that he's here. What that offers us is a peace that can exist within the storm of life. I think we think for me to have peace, there has to be no storm around me, and I can't be at peace as long as the storm is raging. That's not reality, right? Storms come one after the other, it can often feel like. But if I'm with Jesus in the storm, then I can have a peace that the storm can't touch. Because no matter what happens, I know he's here, he's got me, this storm is in his hands, and no matter what happens, I'm safe because he's here. So don't be ashamed to wake up Jesus. Wake him up. Let him know how you're feeling. Let him know that you're afraid, because it's then that he can speak the words that you need to hear and that I need to hear. Why are you terrified? I've got you. You have nothing to worry about. May God give us the deep faith to have the courage to wake him up and the openness and receptivity to hear him speak those words to us.